44 hours and 20 minutes. That is how long we have to wait until we finally get some NFL action. I'm pumped. We've been drafting best balls all summer. Fantastic to have everyone here. And who better to bring along than I think one of the first, if not the first, I think best ball stream I did this summer, joining him and fellow other winner of VBM, Pat Karim. But this one is going to be just Liam Murphy. How are we doing? Welcome to the stream. You've quite the drafters drafting yourself. So good to have you on.
Yeah, I actually did my 150th drafters team this morning.
Nice. Okay. How are you feeling about everything drafters?
You know, I looked through a lot of my early teams. A lot of them are dead. Especially with
why are they dead?
They just have either in my opinion better teams are being built now, or they have like a Jawar Jordan. You know, like we all have our own zeros that we flirt with early in the year. Some people it's CEH. For me, it's either like Will Shipley, hopefully not, or like a Rasheen Ali, and but there's a couple good ones from early, which and it only takes one. I really think the teams you can build now are pretty strong. Of course, if you need Rasheed Rice, whatever, you're not going to happen. But no, I'm really looking forward to the total points sweat because something like BBM, the DK Millie Maker, it's a good sweat, but it's not a real sweat until weeks 15, 16, 17. And my friend got 5th in drafters last year off of 2 entrants. And you're gonna know week 6, week 10, you might have a real sweat in this thing. So I'm excited for that.
I like that. And yeah, we were talking a little about the show. I mean, with this cumulative point strategy, the things like Rasheed Rice, I think, are that much more important because if you're drafting now, if you take Rasheed Rice, you're struggling. Like, if you want to make the argument for the playoffs aspect, if you draft Rasheed Rice in the 3rd or 4th now, you only need to beat out those other teams in a 1-week sample for week 17, and you get the extra benefits of the other guys. I think that's not as impactful. I'm still not drafting Rasheed Rice at his 3rd cost, but I think it's a more valid argument. If Rasheed Rice has a top 10 wide receiver season, no suspension, it's really, really difficult to beat out all of those people who were taking him in the 8th, 9th round.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I kind of hedged the Rasheed Rice thing where it feels a little bad because going into the season, I was like, look, guys, we always fade injury FUD. We've just seen time and time again, Tyreek Hill punching the guy at the dock, Alvin Kamara, JT. There's a million examples of players falling due to fear and it not being justified. And I knew that, but I didn't get enough for Rasheed Rice in something like BBM 5, but I did make sure to get him in things like the total points contest, where exactly what you said, I do think it would be most impactful. Just to catch the audience up, by the way, guys, I'm slowly delving into madness here. If it doesn't look like I'm okay with Tyreek or Monreal for sure, or Bijan if you want to go RB. Tyreek particularly good in total points, but slowly delving into madness here as I do 50 DK slow drafts that rapidly are speeding up on the clock. So I'm fully here for the show, but just in case anyone's confused.
That makes complete sense. Yeah. If we end up, Liam just goes kind of, just zone dead for a second. That's fine. You are doing we get it. We get it. And yeah, so I don't think there's a reason because of the Rasheed Rice stuff. That's not a reason, in my opinion, not to draft now, because there are still many worlds where Rasheed Rice just isn't going to deliver that value or isn't the guy you absolutely need. And that's perfectly fine. I think it's a reason why you maybe shouldn't be drafting him, particularly in these cumulative point style contests now. And so these rankings that I have up right now are, I start off with an ETR base of the rankings, then I do my own modifications, because when you think of the traditional ETR ranks that are back weighted for rookies to produce later on, that's not as important here. And guys like Chuba Hubbard and Jerome Ford, they have more value in this structure, especially if you are going with a late RB or a 0 RB strategy. So you'll see some things there, but I want to make an event note for Rasheed Rice. I don't actually think I have him in the rankings because I'm doing a whole bunch of auto drafts with this. We can touch on a little later. I've just said, rather than putting him 2 rounds past, I'm just not going to have him. Whatever. I'm not going to end up with him, and I'm okay with that.
Some people are asking you to zoom, by the way, if you can
Yeah, I'm
make
gonna do that right now.
bigger for him.
Let's
Um,
get this
and
down.
I agree. Like, look, it's hard with Rasheed Rice because I I see it. I see the league winning upside for him. And so it's like it's hard if you don't understand the game theory aspect for anyone out there who's like, why wouldn't I take a player who could average 20 points per game? But there's a little bit of crumbs with the Juju signing. Maybe they are worried he gets suspended. It's a very weird signing for a Super Bowl contending team to sign a guy who most people think is dust.
Marquise
Um,
Brown is hurt, so like maybe that played into.
like, are they overlapping? It's like, it's Juju and Hollywood. And then yeah, like I think you can take Rice, and I have occasionally, but just make sure you're taking Samaje Perine, Jordan Mason, Malik Washington, guys who were rarely drafted throughout the year, or force a unique combo. Like if you're gonna go at the 1-2 turn, Achan and Kyron Williams, which is just like a very rare pairing to do. Sure, take Rice there. Although there are teams with that plus CMC, so it's hard to take Rice if he's the guy you need. So I'm more with you where I'd rather just outright fade him, especially in total points.
Yeah. I want to give my producer behind the scenes, Steven, some credit. Thank you for putting out that banner, but I should definitely mention it. If you are new to Drafters, if you have not joined Drafters yet, you can use promo code ETR. You will get a 100% first deposit match up to $100. No better time to do it now. You can see what we have available here. Liam, Devontae, Olave, Barkley, Kyron. I'm usually heavy on the wide receivers. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm okay with Olave,
Yeah, that's fine.
Ayuk, or DJ Moore. Those are kind of my preference as far as guys with elite single game upside and elite offenses. Olave is not in that class, but he's more like a Drake London bet where you're just betting on a huge target share, and there's optimism there with the new OC that they give him more like easy work versus just go routes.
I think there's a chance, like if you're bet, I'm down in Florida, so I only have one sports book available, and it did not have this bet. But if you can make a bet for who's going to lead the league in receptions, I think Olave is a fantastic play there. We've been hearing from Underhill as well. The amount that they've been targeting Olave in practices was an insane rate. And when you look at who else the team has available, it wouldn't be shocking. Waddle, go with the Miami stack.
I don't love it in total points. I'm okay
Okay.
with it. But looking at the options, it's like if we're not going to him, it's DK Metcalf for me or Smith. So yeah, I'm okay with Waddle. And
Okay.
I'm more okay with Tyreek and Waddle or Tyreek and Achan. I think it's quite bad to go Tyreek, Achan, Waddle.
Agree with that.
Trying to win the total points.
I think any of the two are fine. And I think you can just play for those outcomes that the Dolphins offense is similar to last year. Their defense is worse. They play healthier. There's maybe a little more concentration for HN, and they just have that outlier season, and any combination of those could really hit. HN and Waddle, if Tyreek gets hurt, like both of those guys maybe become the kind of top two passing options in the offense. We obviously can see it with Tyreek and HN. We've seen it. And then, sure, I think, too, Tyreek and Waddle, if this team is playing a bit more from behind, they have to throw more. It can just be a level of explosion from a passing game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little weird. These both have been banged up, Tyreek and Waddle. Tyreek has stated that he's playing week 1, he's 100%, so probably was nothing. I'm assuming it's nothing for Waddle too. Like in general, I've been buying almost every player who's been dipping down due to the Q tag, if you would. There's
All right, talk to me about Jamar Chase. What are we doing?
well, he's a little bit himself, but like on the like as far as the injured players, which I would put as Addison, Ayuk was contract but similar, Hopkins, Hollywood's
McCaffrey.
the only one that gives me pause just because. I mean, if you look at ESPN Analytics, man, which is not the end all be all, but like he's in a group with like Michael Gallup, Juju Smith-Schuster, like guys who are
But
exiting the NFL.
but you're saying you have pause not because of the injury, but because of you already probably had pause on Hollywood beforehand.
I was a 0% in the 5th, and like I've taken some just because okay, if you're gonna give me in the hundreds, how good you have to be. But like I'm just like, I've historically liked Hollywood, but that's a really rough group to be grouped with, and I've not seen many players rebound as far as like outliers at the pure bottom. Um, how are you viewing these injured guys? Like a guy like Tyler Lockett goes in the 14th round now.
Yeah, that's
Like
crazy.
that. Like where are you at on most of these guys?
Yeah, and I mean, like, I consider you a card carrying game theory, bro. And I say that meaning if you're going to be 0% on Hollywood early on, which is completely fine, when you now get the opportunity to get substantial leverage on the field, it's worth taking some, even if you still feel that your thesis is he's not going to be that great, because now you're getting him a substantial cost that even if he does miss, your overall portfolio still wins. And the times that he actually performs well, you do well. And that's how I would pretty similarly say a lot of my injured thoughts are, especially in best ball. Like, I don't care about week 1, week 2. If it's okay, so DeAndre Hopkins is one where I did start accounting for a little, because this is now an older guy who's having like a soft tissue injury. There's a little more sign that this is, hey, repeatable. And like Marquise Brown, I get it too. People were already kind of injury concerned. He gets an early injury. It kind of starts like ticking the boxes of, well, should we actually be concerned about long term? I get that. The things like these injuries, like I'm going to go with Jalen Warren's a good example. Even if he
Yeah.
was to miss one or start off, like that's not something we think is going to actually affect him come week 3 onward. So for those, I'm scooping up. I'm taking the value. Okay, we are back up.
I
We're
love Zay.
still in,
I think I like Zay at the 3-4 turn. And
okay.
so I think as he goes in the 4th and 5th, it's just like a smash.
He's been dropping a bunch the past week or two. Any thoughts why?
I think the casual audience just hates him. What stick out in their memory is the playoff game where he actually had a good fantasy performance, but he like didn't score on a touchdown when he dived. And I see the Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers splits touted a lot, which is pretty meaningless to me because, of course, that was to start the season wherein Zay Flowers was a pure rookie. I view Flowers as a guy with elite single week upside. I think he ran bad in that department. Lamar finally has a real OC for 2 years in a row. So we haven't seen Lamar's best passing season yet, probably. And, not going to be impossible for Andrews to slow down. And he's competing for looks with like Rashad Bateman, who, come on, I'm not doing that again. Like Flowers is just clear as the rest, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say early on in the offseason, I was kind of not as high on Flowers because where he was going was like late 3rd, early 4th. And I kind of like a good amount of the wide receivers that were going around there. I'm looking right now, you got like guys like Diggs and such. But since he's fallen into this area where we can also often stack with Lamar, which is now available here, do we go
Yeah,
like a Lamar and Tua double like build?
yeah. I always go Lamar when I get Flowers here. Sometimes I take Lamar first, try to get Flowers because his ADP is just firmly in the 5th in some places, which
When
is
you say his,
insane.
you mean Lamar or Flowers?
Flowers is.
Okay.
Um, and so I've gotten some. I went like Lamar and then Flowers, and then I got Andrews by going 4, 5, 6 at like the in the middle. So some crazy things happening. Yeah, I view Flowers similar to Tank and Diggs as far as like I really like those 3 like as a mini tier, firmly above like Pittman, Cooper, and gang. But nothing crazy.
Yeah. When you look at quarterbacks on drafters, when you compare it to other sites, you notice they go between a half a round to a round later, at least the elite guys. I know you've done some research on drafters. Like, do you agree with that? Do you think that's chasing past data? Like, why do we see the QBs drop more on drafters compared to other sites?
I honestly really don't know. Early in the year, it like this would happen as well, where I was like, okay, like I cannot take Dak with an ADP of 70 or Kyler at an ADP of 70 when I was regularly seeing those players go in the like hundreds, And so I I just haven't been in the drafter street as much lately, just because I only had a couple teams left. So I didn't know if that phenomenon stopped. What I noticed about Underdog is that was happening and on DK2. And then these players, like the quarterbacks, really started to go up in price, where people just kind of wanted to get their stacks. They wanted to get their QBs, especially DK. So I don't really know. Richardson in particular will just like fall everywhere. What's your stance on why you think this is occurring?
So when I play on DraftKings, which is similar PPR, I personally feel that it's better to go with it, and it's 20 rounds. So like kind of similar to drafters. I think it's mostly advantageous to go with 3 quarterbacks, and often that means waiting a bit on quarterback. But it's weird because over on that site, like they actually go pretty early. It's kind of counterintuitive. Here on drafters, that same thought process kind of applies where it's like, okay, I should wait a bit because the amount of points they proportionally score compared to the other positions because PPR is not as great. So like they should go later. But there's also data that shows that with a cumulative structure, you should actually go for only 2 QBs because it's more important to use that extra roster spot to try to find the outlier Kyron or whoever you want to, come up, Puka, whatever name. So it kind of is like a meet in the middle where I do think they should be going a little later because it's PPR, but I do like grabbing an elite one. And I saw someone was asking in the chat earlier, like, hey, you drafted 5 running backs in the first 7 rounds. If you've seen me on the drafters in the past 3 weeks, my teams have all been auto drafted. And so it's kind of part of an experiment I'm doing. Part of, I think it just is a viable strategy for a cumulative contest. I've ended up with a couple of really bad teams. One of them, I think I have like Gardner Minshew and Russell Wilson as my quarterbacks. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute.
I manually drafted some bad teams. I think Rachaad White is a steal here.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Like I think also, the FUD on him's gone too far, and we don't need him to be like a league winner at this price. If he can just be 14 points per game and just a consistent like RB2, RB1, and we're hitting ceiling elsewhere, he can be part of the winning team 100%.
Yeah.
I wrote an article.
Cumulative points. We're cumulative points. Rachaad White is even better for cumulative points because if he's going to be devalued because Bucky Irving ends up surpassing him or taking more work, that happens later on in the season, most likely. So we're getting those really strong, high-performing points. He's probably, in like a projection standpoint, a top 10 projected running back each week starting the season.
He's going to be probably like chalk week 1 against the Commanders, Yes, I wrote an article breaking down the top scoring teams on drafters, and I agree with you. Like 3-6-8-3 was the most predominant build the past 2 years. But as far as optimizing for like first place equity or top 10 equity, I do lean to QB. I like Montgomery. Yeah. Who else is in the wideout tab?
Yeah, wide receivers, we've got Hopkins, McConkey, Hollywood, Palmer really start hitting that cliff a bit.
What's the tight end tab? That Ferguson? Yeah, let's do Montgomery.
I agree.
I think this is just like a chalk good way to build. 3 starting wideouts, a flex, 2 starting running backs, a quarterback, get a tight end, get a 3rd running back, build out depth.
Yeah, and I'll throw in the David Montgomery. I like the Detroit guys a little more in this structure than I do the main contest because in the playoff style contest, Detroit has one of the hardest schedules for that playoff. Like so many of their, because I think they have 1 out of the 3 are dome games in the playoffs, but they have so many dome games in the regular season. So you're getting all of that benefit of the Detroit for the regular season, which is where their value is. So another guy that I think gives us a little extra boost in the regular season, which is what we care about here.
Yeah, I agree. Like Goff is a really good total point QB with all the dome games. And just that division is just kind of like shootout oriented in my mind. Like Minnesota's secondary is one of the league worst. And then the Packers, the Bears, and the Lions all have high-powered offenses. And really only the like Bears defense seems like pretty good. But we'll see about the Lions defense with their additions. Should we do something fun and go through the first like 10 rounds and try to choose who will be the total points player? Like who will be the highest scoring players and most represented on top 100 total points teams, something like that?
Yeah, I like that. I was just looking real quick Tua is going to be our second quarterback, and I think we can go just Lamar and Tua, right?
Yeah, I would
Okay,
never go 3 with
cool.
if we
And
get down
then,
to.
so Tua's ADP 118.5. We'll have pick 117 here because we have both of the wide receivers. We're only fighting. I mean, Achan, if Uncle Buck wanted to, I guess possible. He'll get first dibs here. Mostert drafter.
2 is a guy who I would recommend more often than not. I mean, I don't know about like this landscape today, but more often than not, he will be available a full round past ADP.
Yeah.
So
Especially because
like,
we have Waddle and Tyreek. Yeah.
yeah. Now, some people are auto drafting, some people are clicking buttons out here. So you can get in some trouble with like that, but
yeah. And that's a good thing. Before we go back to, because I like the segment you referenced on auto drafting, because I want to have only 2 QBs, I set my limit, so I'm only doing 2 QBs. I also put a bump up a little bit for the early QBs, and I've got to mess with it to make sure I'm not getting Allen and Jalen Hurts. But I give a little bump, so most of my teams end up getting one of Jalen, Josh, Lamar. I don't get much Mahomes, but like one of those 3 often. And then later on, it's like it ends up purely just being a falling value of who kinds of ends up falling. And once I get the second, it automatically stops at the position. So that gives me a kind of good baseline. And then I'm also doing 3 tight ends. And so in that situation, most of the middle tight ends, I don't love that. It's not that I don't love them because I actually like traditional drafting, draft a lot of Ingram and stuff. But
past like
because
Schultz, it's a huge tier break.
here we go. Yeah. And it's hard when you're autoing. So I end up just taking usually 1 early and 3 late. Okay. We don't want a QB now. Ramondre, Javante. I probably would lean
Pretty nice
Ramondre
value
here.
on Ramondre. I like if you put a gun to my head, I would pick Pollard over him if I could only do 1 draft this year. But like if we're anchored to previous prices, Ramondre was a 7-8 turn player.
Agreed.
So I think you can't go wrong, Ramondre or Pollard.
I think that makes sense. Let's tight end. What are your thoughts on tight end for this format? I'll add in a quick that we've seen historically elite tight end does not have as high of advance rates as just going with the 3 more well balanced. But a lot of the reasons why analysts touts like elite tight end is because when you need that elite ceiling for a small sample for like a 1 week in the playoffs, you want that elite upside. Do you think there's still value to kind of going with the elites in this structure? Do you go balance? What is your normal kind of MO around tight ends?
I don't think you can purely punt off tight end as far as getting bad production and win. Like the winning team will be smashing at every position, including tight end. So to me, that means I generally want at least 1 of Ferguson plus. Bowers and Njoku also a nice consolation. I'm okay with Warren. I'm okay with White, who's like, I think he'll have some big games. And then I'm okay with Bowers too, if you want to do that.
All right, Zamir White or Bowers, I think either makes sense.
I think
Which one do
Zamir's
you
the
want?
better pick. Like as far as like who, the main reason being the time period where Zamir White was a pick 100 guy is limited to this week as far as like often. And so, yeah, I don't love the offense, but he is an athletic freak. And that inherently means he can score like an 80-yard touchdown. He could have big games. We know they want to be run heavy. And it lets us go like with this group, we could stop at 5 RB if we really wanted to. Just because everyone's like a pretty high floor player. But we can also take 2 like huge dart throws. But yeah. So like on tight end, like I mostly am trying to get 1 elite. And sometimes only doing 2, but I've got some like likely Conklin and Jonnu Smith teams too, just in case I can cobble together the right weeks.
Well, and one thing that I think is worth mentioning with you with regard for what you said with regards to tight ends, I agree with you. Having 3 average tight ends is not going to win you this contest. So if you want to go with the 3 late tight ends and they produce as you're expecting, I mean, you can do fine, but you're not winning this, as you said. But if you go with 3 late tight ends and one of them gives you the Hawkinson or one of them gives you the breakout, now
Ferguson.
you are back into it. What was that?
For like Jake Ferguson from last year.
Yep, exactly. And so that's where I think like if you're going 3 late tight ends, it is viable, but the key shouldn't be to try to find guys that all together can kind of get you maybe a touchdown a week or something and get, piecemeal. It's look for the three guys and hope that one of those breaks out for part of the season, the whole season, etc. And so maybe that is Likely and
Conklin.
like Hawkinson, Likely, and one really late one. I think that could make sense if that's what you want to do. I'm not drafting much Hawkinson in this. I think his price is too much. But if you think that, hey, you've got that upside potential, so maybe it's Likely for Theo Johnson and Greg Dulcich or something, because you believe there's breakout potential, that's where I think you can use a viable 3 late tight end strategy.
Yeah, I quite like Dulcich as like a hope he can PPR scam it as the second target there.
Who else?
But like I think Bowers and Njoku are in their own mini tier. Goddard is like the last of as far as like maybe you could fall into a tight end 5 season. Taysom Hill too is his own beast. And then like after Dalton Schultz, it's like I'm not taking any tight end until like the 150s.
Okay. I don't know if you heard my truth, Sarah. It's basically at this point of the year.
Let's do it. Let's do it then. Unless, like I didn't see the other players available, but they're all. I'm doing so many drafts, like no one's really sticking. I was like, I need this guy.
There wasn't a smash.
Yeah, like okay, Goddard, but people like I'm telling you, those Q tags can be generational gifts.
Yeah. And Jalen Hurts is here, so like I could definitely see him taking Goddard as his tight end too. I still don't think like it was worth us. All of these 3 guys each have one quarterback. I just didn't want to take that risk when, hey, we've got the 2 Miami pass catchers for this team to really hit its top, 0.1% outcome. We need those both Dolphin guys to have huge years, and that means 2 is also having a really good year.
And like this team is so well structured already where it's like it's got 4 wide receivers who all have like 30-point ceilings plus. It's got 4 running backs who seem locked into good roles. We'll find depth later. We can find breakouts. And then like, yeah, like I'm not even like running to the table for Goddard, but I do like him a lot as like you take him and then you take 2 late and just hope that like Goddard's your 10 points per game. That can be enough. And then see what else emerges, But like the late tight ends of past years that hit were Jake Ferguson, so elite offense, second target. I think we go Goddard.
I agree.
Why not? Dawson Knox one year where the Bills ran like 4 wide receiver personnel the whole year before, so we're all like, oh, they're not gonna get the tight end involved, and then they swapped it. Gronk hit one year where it's like
the year you're talking about was Knox, Gronk, and Schultz. All were late picks, and they finished 3 in the top 6 of tight ends. And as you're saying, I think it comes down to 2 things. One, being attached to a high-powered offense, and then finding the right role. Because the Bills, the Bucks, that was Tom Brady Bucks, and the Cowboys were all some of the highest passing offenses for that year. And those 3 guys finished top 6. The other breakouts we've seen of late guys are the athletic profile, and that's where the Hawkinson comes into it. I meant the Hawkinson. The Laporta comes into it. I think I mentioned Hawkinson earlier, but when I meant Laporta. But like there, where it's
confused. I was like,
I did. Now I'm replaying that. Yeah, Laporta, because he was going 17th, 16th, and then he finished as like a 14th because he climbed so high up or whatever. You can also have the breakout profile, and that's where maybe we'd put in, honestly, Greg Dulcich, where if you look back at like his RAS, if you look back at like him as a prospect profile, if he can stay healthy, he is that yards after catch, tight end. Theo Johnson as well. We don't know, but he obviously has the RAS score. He has the explosiveness. And there's probably a couple other guys.
Sinan, I quite like as far as like a poor man's Laporta on a worse offense. I really like
price
Conklin.
Is attainable now. Yeah.
I like Conklin as the hope that it's like if Mike Williams can't get it going, maybe he could have a God, what was the guy who had 11 touchdowns with Rodgers one year? Tunyon.
Mercedes Lewis?
No, Robert Tunyon. Like what why couldn't he be Robert Tunyon, Robert Tunyon plus, A likely I like is just a guy with an elite single week ceiling, which that would be my like for anyone who's like, what's more important on drafters? I would say identifying and drafting players with elite single week upsides. Like, for example, it was really hard to win last year without Achan because when you're slotting in 20 points and someone else is slotting in 50, like that's just hard to make up that over the course of the season.
I hear that. All right. Well, we have some, we'll call it breaking news. Breaking news from inside this stream. We have drafters right here in the building with us saying, let's give away a ticket for this chat.
Hey.
Definitely like the stream, subscribe to the channel, and I'm going to put in the channel, if you put hashtag ETR, I'll put in the comments, hashtag ETR, you will be entered into it. And then I've got the giveaway tool running in the background.
Hashtag ETR and your drafter's username.
Wait, what?
Hashtag ETR and their drafter's username, right? So that you don't have to ask them, or
no. So what'll happen is they just
you got to
have to figure. Yeah, because they just put hashtag ETR and the giveaway tool automatically gets their YouTube name. So we'll say who the winner is, and then you'll just send me a DM afterwards. We'll give a little time to that. We are 2 spots away. Quick refresher. We've got Lamar and Tua. We've got our 4 elite wide receivers, 4 pretty strong running backs. Dallas Goedert coming back to us.
I think we need to go wide out here.
Okay.
I think wide out.
A little Polk, a little Downs, Michael Wilson.
Yeah, Polk. I would say Polk, and then like I'm still into Downs too. After
Polk or Wilson,
I like Polk.
Okay, sounds good.
Just I like Wilson too, but yeah, like he seems capped as the 3rd target.
I get that. And I guess where I'm thinking through is like, I don't have the strongest takes right now on Polk versus Wilson, or at least not to go against the market. But I do know that if you look at other contests, other sites that are more, playoff driven, Jalen Polk goes a little higher, but right about the same because you expect Jalen Polk to have increasing relevance value as the season goes on. Michael Wilson, his actual strongest value is going to come weeks 1 to 5, even because that's when Zay Jones is suspended. And that's when you expect, like, Marvin Harrison hasn't ramped up. So I can convince myself that maybe Michael Wilson has a little more cumulative value than Jalen Polk. But, like, also you could just tell me that Jalen Polk's ceiling is substantially higher as the number 1 wide receiver for that team. So I'm okay with either.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not going to call Polk Amari Cooper, but even if Jacoby Brissett is the QB, he supported a really great year out of Cooper. Well, let's get Michael Wilson goes. I think we go Downs. Like
I agree.
I agree. The reporting, we got reporting that Downs was getting straight up out targeting Pittman before he got hurt. And if you get him back in the lineup by like week 14, whatever, has an elite single week upside, has out Steven Flacco, QBing some good years. So I think he's a pretty strong wide receiver 6.
I was a little overweight him early on. He was kind of like the one detour I was going for in that like 120s away from running backs, just because I thought like, hey, has a lot of talent. I didn't expect like Adonai Mitchell to completely overtake him. And yeah, the reports are positive. If you're not now taking him when you're getting this extra 2 rounds of value and going in an area where like the wide receivers for the most part are pretty just gross, this just feels like the time where we were talking about the injuries. I don't care if he's hurt the first week or 2. Yes, there's a risk that high ankle sprain prolongs, and we've seen players that like just never truly come back from a high ankle sprain across the season. Austin Eckler last year, but Josh Downs like could be this like, I don't want to call it PPR scam, but like PPR like world beater. Yeah, like yeah.
And he wins down the field too. He's not like strictly like Michael Wilson flashed like elite single week upside, but it's also not impossible he's like, outscored by Dortch, where okay, Mitchell's there too, so I guess it's pretty similar, and like we like Mitchell more than we like Dortch. And I mean, like, I guess
we like Trey McBride a hell of a lot more than we like
either.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, who's going right now? Because Jelani's out for the year.
Kylan Granson.
Yeah, because he caught the 1 touchdown in preseason. Like,
sure. I don't know. Like, I have some dead Jelani Woods bags. I thought this would be the year I dodged that 0, but no, we got some. Although he could return by Christmas, so it's
yeah. I'm a little more
Been below.
fortunate. The ETR guys were really pushing that this is just gonna be like a 4-man tight end committee. There was nothing there, so I'm fortunate to have gotten to stay away there. But
I thought that like what it was going to be like coaching staff centric, and by them getting a new coaching staff that could change, but I guess not. Mo Alley Cox is still there. Will Mallory or something. It's mostly a stay away. Particularly bad in total points. A little bit better in playoff pods where they could just have a lucky week.
Also, they're going to lead the league in
rush attempts,
rushing touchdown percentage. Like the difference between their rushing versus passing touchdowns. I think they'll probably lead the league.
I think we might, like, all these wide receivers look pretty similar, that we might want to get a fifth and final running back we like.
Okay.
Because I don't know, like after Marshawn Lloyd, who I like more than Tank, running back is dead, and like you saw P Ryan go in the 150s here. Like all the running backs are going to be gone soon. The wide receiver bets are all similar enough to me. Do you have a favorite here? I think that, like, obviously we're not doing Gibson.
I have a clear favorite. But it's Bucky, but we have Rachaad White, and that doesn't work well for this structure.
Let's do Braylon then. I think Herbert's more likely to have week 1 value, but Braylon is the Bucky of the Jets.
Okay. I was going to maybe push for Luke Musgrave, but he just went. I've got Braylon's queued, so we're good there. I agree with maybe. So we're taking Bateman next, maybe?
Sure. Like, even on like I'm taking Hollywood on the Mahomes teams, but even on the Lamar teams, I'm like, okay, Bateman, come on, dude. Come on. We can carry a 0.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Lamar stack, and there's
I was going to
talent somewhere hidden, somewhere underneath. What was that?
I was going to push for a 20th round Nelson Aguilar.
You still could. I mean, he has talent somewhere deep inside. We just, we're maybe seeing it. The coaches are talking him up, not as much as Jameson Williams, but like there's a drum beat there. It's a faint drum beat. And come on. Yeah. Aguilar. All right. We are. Bateman is
Bateman went. What's tight end look like?
It's ugly. We may as well just wait. Oh, likely. Definitely likely.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
I think likely is like straight up a better pick than Bateman.
I was just about to say that. I agree, especially for what we are building in this format. Yeah.
We got a lot of week 14 buys, so our wide receiver buys are weird, but yeah, and I think like
tight end elite ones aren't, so that helps.
Yes. Our tight end's a little, like, to me, after Henry, Fant, Otten, and Likely go, a bit of a teardrop. Like, I take Juwan, I take Sinnott, I take Parkinson, I take Dulcich.
So, I agree with you. There's definitely a teardrop from like a projectability value to your team from a points. How do you weigh that verse? But we could also get tight ends who haven't been being drafted that much in here. And even though they're a tier below, they're at least very unique. And that's where you get to the guys like Colby and Theo and Tucker Kraft, or fullback.
I like the Kraft one. I like the Kraft one. Like if Kincaid breaks his leg week 1, Knox, I guess, could have a good year too. You always have those outs on elite offenses, and like Kraft just seems like he could be like a yak guy anyways. Which is why I like Jonnu too, right? Because we like that Jonnu can catch a 5-yard ball and go score.
But he's a fullback. Did you see that?
Well, on FFPC is going to have a firestorm to deal with.
They need to sign up for your channel to get your takes on there. I don't even want to get into that, but that's going to be a shit show. So Dolphins released.
Are you viewing that we're done at running back, or would you generally go 6 here?
I feel pretty good about who we have. The one thing is Braylon Allen could be a 0 for the majority of the year. So like if this was Antonio Gibson, even though I'm going to use Antonio Gibson just as an example. If this was Antonio Gibson, I probably would have been more like, okay, 5, because that 5th running back we expect to be playing and contributing. because Braylon, even though he has higher upside and I like him as a better pick for this team, because he could be the 0, it might make sense to grab another one. Real quick, but who was a fullback? So Jonnu Smith on the most recent depth chart from Miami Dolphins is listed as the backup fullback behind, I think, Alec Ingold. So do with that what you want. But okay, we are back here. Hunter Henry feels like a pretty decent value if he wants to fall to us.
Yeah, I agree. And we get division correlation against the Dolphins guys and Braylon.
He just went. Okay. Running back is pretty flat.
Pass.
Honestly.
Let's get a third tight end. You choose your favorite here.
Ooh,
John, do you want to do Jonnu and stack up Tua?
Yeah, we probably should. That feels so bad though after the fullback thing, which
We're
is
also
completely
going
irrelevant, but it's just in your head. It means nothing. He's not actually a fullback. We know he's not a fullback. Come on, take John.
No, like, and how I like to refer to late round tight ends is, are they BGE, which means are they big game eligible? And Jonnu is. Like, Jonnu can, everyone can run clear out routes, and Jonnu catches a ball in the flat, and he literally has the ability to go run 80 yards, you know, where Hunter Henry can't do that. K. Dotton can't do that. Conklin can't do that. Like, they need to catch 3 touchdowns. Isaiah Likely can go catch a ball 40 yards down the field. So he's also big game eligible. And, you know,
it is
like,
PPR. It is PPR, so that it helps a little to just kind of get the reception. But I agree with you. Also, Malik Washington went the pick after us.
That's a bummer. I was gonna say, let's get the whole Dolphins thing.
I mean, hell yeah, especially this late, like the draft capital at this point. But
well, yeah, and like, you know, something that, like, looking through the winners, something that was common last year is the teams that won were reaching into the late rounds because those were the teams that took both Kyron and Puka. You know, so at this point in the draft, go ahead. Whoever you can convince yourself on, take Malik Washington now. Take Jordan Whittington. Take whoever, you know. Jermaine Burton's fine, but he's 100% drafted, you know.
He is. But with what's happening with Jamar Chase right now, and just if there is a tiny bit of risk that this becomes something more, Jermaine Burton.
I'm cool with it.
Yeah, the talent you have at this point, and we only have 6 wide receivers. This is likely going to be a 2-6-9-3 build.
Yeah, I think you could even go 2-7-8-3. Really, whatever your heart contends there. And you know, like, I think the Likely and Jonnu combo is really, it pairs really well with Goddard, like we talked about earlier, where like Dallas is going to give us 10 points per game in healthy seasons, maybe room for more. And then Likely and Jonnu, we're just trying to smash huge games, and they're both correlated with their quarterback. So we're making things easy on ourselves to win.
Yeah. Okay. We have a couple more picks. I'll do it once more, though. If you want to be entered into the raffle for a free contest ticket from courtesy of Drafters, put hashtag ETR in the chat. Once this draft is over, I'll flip tabs and we will go to the giveaway tool. There are hashtag ETR. Looks like we have about trying to see how many entries. We'll see. Okay.
Where are you at on P. Ryan's correct price if he was not a sub 5% drafted player? Like, if he was just a Chief the whole year.
I get it. After Sharbs, after Chandler,
next to Gibson, ahead of Gibson, ahead of
Gibson,
Herbert.
even though I'm very high on Gibson, but ahead of Gibson just because Chiefs, Patriots.
Yeah. Ahead of Algier.
Of Bucky. Probably right behind Algier.
Yeah, that's like roughly where I think too. And I don't think the Carson Steele upside thesis is dead. His floor is 0 points. But, you know, like, is Samaje Perine going to become a 100% snap rate player if Pacheco goes down? Probably not. And I thought Steele showed something in the preseason. Like, he looked good. And I think he's going to steal some goal line touchdowns.
Oh, really?
I think he will. Yeah.
Steal?
Oh, yeah. We got to stop the steal.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an argument of just, hey, Chiefs, you're on the Chiefs. You've shown you can do something. There's value. I'm not drafting him now, but like if you drafted him, you don't need to cry yourself to sleep. You can just frown yourself to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely have P Ryan behind. Like, I think P Ryan's better in best ball too for anyone who's like doing managed waivers where he'll have some big games, but it'll probably be hard to pin when they are.
Yep. Okay. So we've got probably 2 wide receivers, 1 run. We definitely have 1 running back, 1 wide receiver. And then it's a TBD on that last one. What have you found at this time of year? Do you feel that you've got better confidence, or do you like the like 20th round wide receivers or the 20th round running backs more?
Wide receivers way more. Like the running, like there are guys I like at running back, but it's thin where Trey Tuck, like there's like infinite guys like Trey Tucker still available. Jordan Whittington, like I think we grab Tucker right now because no one's sticking out.
Ooh, I love me some Josh Reynolds. I
Do you?
can talk through this one too.
I think Tucker will have more big games, but as like just the wide receiver 2 of the Broncos, I'm okay with Reynolds.
Okay. Yeah,
Let's
I
be
get you on the
Reynolds.
Tucker.
Rarely drafted, not drafted often in the 18th, so.
Very right. Josh Reynolds very rarely drafted, so we're going to get him at very low ownership, especially like in a regular season kind of thing where Troy Franklin's not going to see the field for a while, may not ever. They still don't love Marvin Mims. Like it's pretty
Maybe
clear
never,
that Josh Reynolds. There goes straight Tucker. I know people. It's okay. They're watching the stream. They hear you. We're just giving the people what they want. We'll still build a great team.
That's fine. I'm not like stamping the table for Tucker, but I do see the appeal as like, a high single week upside player.
Agreed. It is kind of humorous where these guys like Trey Tucker are great picks and like 19th and 20th were like, contests that have 20 rounds, but then they don't actually fit the structure of like a PPR for like drafters and DraftKings. While Underdog, they like actually, okay, we were back. I kind of want to grab some Cam Akers.
All right, yeah. If you have I was going to try to sell you on Sion Vaki, but I'm okay with Cam Akers.
Okay, I'm going to go with the Cam Akers. I think this ADP is quite misleading because for the majority of this offseason, he's been drafted 0%. And he looked actually pretty good. We know that like he has the pedigree, the talent from before. He looked good in the 1 preseason game. They've wanted to have a legit number 2, Dameon Pierce, even though like the early off season was positive, and it seems like it was more of kind of just like a positive affirmation kind of thing. And then I will say they've even like said, Dameon Pierce's struggles in the preseason were more like a zone blocking thing. But the thing is, he's always struggled with that kind of offense. So I think it's very possible that Cam Akers just becomes the clear number 2. And also, are we sure Joe Mixon is actually better than Cam Akers at football? I don't know. I don't know. So give me a very low percent owned guy at the end of drafts. I'm taking him.
I will never defend Joe Mixon for many reasons. The Sion Vaki pitch is.
Talk to me about that because I haven't considered that since, I don't know, Davis mentioned him 4 months ago.
Yeah, I didn't give it serious credence then either. And it's the hope that he's like Jalen Wright, where he has 2 outs to, an injury to Montgomery, and we have Montgomery on this team, so it doesn't make a bunch of sense. But an injury to Gibbs or Montgomery, maybe Montgomery or Gibbs just becomes like a 90% snap rate player, or maybe Sion gets some run there. And, like Craig Reynolds is not stiff competition. And I thought Sion did well in the preseason and he got 4th round draft capital, so like he's a pretty similar bet to Will Shipley, just at a near 0%.
I feel it.
It's thin.
Through Aguilar
it's thin
in the
but,
queue.
Like
they're all thin at this point. I mean, obviously, people kind of saying, are we seriously asking if Joe Mixon is better than Cam Akers? Yes, we are asking it. We are asking the questions. That's what we do here. We ask the hard questions. It is up to you all to decide whether or not it is actually factually accurate. But we are asking the questions. Yeah, and I put Nelson Aguilar in the queue. If somebody wants to snipe naked Nelson Aguilar, please go ahead. But I will say, I went to a small little school in Tampa, Florida, and Nelson Aguilar is our most famous kind of athlete that's come out of our little preparatory school. So if we end
Did
up
he
with
go to
him,
UT?
no, for high school. For
Oh, high school.
college, yeah, I'm talking like small high school. No, college was he
No, I
USC?
think Nelson Aguilar is like a similar bet to Trey Tucker, just on a better offense, you know?
Yeah, yeah, he was USC for college. High school, he was Berkeley Preparatory School. Actually, same school that do not F with Steve in the Discord for ETR I went to as well. Okay. 2 more picks until it. I've still got Nelson Aguilar there. If we don't get Aguilar, what are we looking at? What other wide receivers here would you kind of mess with?
I'll
Little
pull
Elijah
one out
Moore?
if we get there. No. Yeah, let's just do Aguilar. I mean, I guess we would just do like Devontae Walker and just like he's a similar bet to Jermaine Burton where seems dead, but maybe he's not, you know?
With a very different talent disparity, I'd say.
Similar draft capital, but yeah, Burton rumored to have fallen due to character issues, so
Right.
it's fine saying that.
Okay. Well, first off, credit to you for staying 100% attentive during this while still trying to survive slow draft hell in the background. So,
I'm
well done.
barely surviving. I'm like
All right.
constantly, it's like 5 seconds left.
There you go. Well, we are now doing it. Last chance, hashtag ETR if you want a chance to get the drafters ticket, put it in. And otherwise, we are going to spin the wheel, let the giveaway wheel do its thing. Appreciate everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe if you haven't already. It's been a fantastic summer. Liam, what are you going to do with all of your time once the season starts?
Jumping right into week 1 content on Friday, you know, gonna write up some game theory sides, doing some underdog daily drafts too. I haven't fully figured out. I'm trying to survive these slow draft hell I'm in. And then like I'm literally waiting until we get the overnight pause to do the rest of the fast drafts, just so I don't have to do the fast drafts and the slow drafts at the same time. I want to get an answer before we end this though. I want to get an answer from you. Let's just do this. The choose a QB, RB, wideout, and tight end that will be most represented on top 100 teams for drafters contest.
Okay, I like it.
We'll go one at a time each position. So quarterback, you go first.
Okay. QB. I'm going to go Caleb Williams.
I love that answer. That's a really good answer. I'll go. Obviously, I'm not going to dupe you, so I'll go. I'm gonna stick in that division and go Jordan Love, and just bet that like Jordan Love is basically the CJ Stroud bet, but at a much cheaper cost for all his weapons.
And easy to stack. So there's correlation bonus there. All right, running backs, you take it first.
Running back, I'm gonna try to choose an expensive one and not be I mean, how can you not choose Achane? Like Achane just going off with some huge games, even at a second round draft capital, seems like a foregone conclusion. So I'll go Achane. Yeah, pretty weak answer, but
that's what my top thought was. He is my highest drafted running back this season. I'm going to go with a late one, and I'm going to go with Bucky Irving. And a little of this is we may need a Rachaad White injury. But if we get a Rachaad White injury, I think Bucky Irving can absolutely smash. I think he takes the Rachaad White workload and maybe even adds a little efficiency to it. And I think he's going to have a role as the season goes on, even without a Rachaad White injury. So I'm going to go with that. It's a long shot, obviously, but there's also multiple ways for that to really hit.
The way the community reacts, at least the like streamer community, it's a foregone conclusion that Bucky Irving is Wally Pipping Rachaad White by like week 3. So that's a popular pick, I think.
I have a lot of Rachaad White though in best ball too.
I got both. I like
exactly.
both. Where are we at on wideout?
Okay. I've got to change my mindset because a lot of the guys that I like are like Brian Thomas and Romo Dunze, but that's not a great pick for this format.
I think it is. Those guys have high single week outcomes.
They do, but I think the ramp up for a rookie, especially for someone like Rome, who probably isn't going to be starting in 2 wide receiver sets. We don't know how much they're actually going to play in 3 wide. So like, I think that's a better bet for if we were doing something with the playoffs than the season long. I am going to go with. This is tough. Let's go. I'm going to go with Chris, and then you can choose whether I'm saying Christian Kirk or Chris Godwin, because I think both of those could work. I'll start with the Chris Godwin one.
No, you need to choose one.
I'll go Chris Godwin. I'm going Chris Godwin. Same with the Bucs. So I think the Jalen McMillan emergence, he is going to be a wide receiver 3. That's all on the most recent depth chart, and that aligns with what we've seen. And so I think that is very beneficial for Chris Godwin. It pushes him into the slot. His success, his fantasy points have been substantially higher from the slot. And I think he's going to have positive touchdown regression from last year. Oh, I'm making him blunder, though, because he always goes the back of drafts. So that means if he's high, that means the draft's winners are coming from like picks 10 to 12. So now this is a horrible draft pick, and I hate myself for saying it. And we'll go back.
You're trying to game theory the one who they're paired with. I should
have got someone who's linking with Christian McCaffrey or Tyreek or Lamb. Yeah, gosh, I failed.
I drafted a lot more Kirk than Godwin, so I was hoping you would break that tie the Kirk way. But
I like Christian Kirk a lot.
It is what it is. I'm going to go expensive again. I'm going Brandon Ayuk. We're getting the 1,600-yard season, 10+
You should have gone
touchdown,
Rasheed Rice.
From Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, I mean, look, Rice could have been an answer, but we're laying our cards on the table. Ayuk. It's Ayuk here.
Rice feels like the right answer, but we're going to ignore that.
Tight end.
Okay.
I think it's me now. Dalton Kincaid. Give me we're gonna look back and we're gonna be like, yeah, we probably should have just taken the guy attached to Josh Allen, who's young, who just lost Diggs and Gabe Davis. Probably should have just taken him over the olds.
I like that. I mean, I don't love that, but I like that for you. I get it.
I don't agree with anything you said, but I like it for you.
I've got some Kincaid. It's fair. Okay. I could say Kyle Pitts because, I mean, the upside potential there is enormous, but also he's going at the pick 60 or so. So he's only getting stacked with all this crappy team 11 and 12.
Bad
so
combo
I'm going
there.
the other side. We're going the other side. Could go Mark Andrews. I'm going to go Evan Ingram. I think that Evan Ingram can have a huge, especially we're talking PPR, just play. Oh, that offense. There's a role. This offense can run through any of the 3 guys. Sorry, not you, Gabe. I could see it going through Christian Kirk. Granted, he's not even playing 2 wide receiver sets. You could see it through Brian Thomas Jr. He's got the full route tree developed, but like still a rookie. Or you could just see it through Evan Ingram, small sample size preseason game, 2 touchdowns, but we saw it through the stretch last year. I just think his upside and his value for where he's going is just a great combo.
I like Jake Ferguson would have been another one I would have maybe chose just as like second target. Maybe all this Cowboys FUD is a little overblown. Like Ingram, maybe he is the guy, but he's competing with Kirk and Brian Thomas Jr. and Gabe's going to have some big games. Ferguson's competing with like creative players,
Yeah. But he might just be a Jag. Like he might just be another interesting guy.
He is. But like Dak loves tight ends and like,
Yeah. All right. This was fun. Okay, let's do it. I know you've all been waiting. We're going to draw who is going to win the free ticket from Drafters. Thank you, Drafters. Thank you for having us on, joining us for this stream. And the winner is Michael Floyd. All right, Michael, send me a DM. Actually, send me a DM and I'll liaison with Drafters. But just take a screenshot of your account on YouTube just so you don't know how many times I've done this and I get like 3 DMs like, I'm Michael Floyd. No, you're not. Stop it. So just got to prove that it's really you. I'll believe you. I just won't believe the other ones who send it as well. Congratulations. All right, Liam, beatbestball.com. You've got some stuff coming week 1. Anything else? What else there? What else do you want to say?
Don't ever do what I did and enter 80 slow drafts a couple days before the season. I have the feeling that I'm like constantly on the clock. I don't like it. Really looking forward to the NFL season starting. Yeah, I mean, I do my own streams. You can check me out. Just Liam Murphy on YouTube. See all that goodness. Thanks for having me on, Herzig. It was fun to chop this up, and just we're so close to the season here. Nice to just talk through who's going to be on the teams. Should we end it with who's going to be the BBM5 winning quarterback too?
Honestly, most of my answers would stay. Caleb would still be the same for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I would choose Love as well, actually, against the Vikings.
There you go. Okay. Now it's bad content. It went from a great bit to now we're just okay. This is fantastic. Thanks for joining me, chat. You were hilarious. You were fun. Thanks for joining us as well all summer. And we got some fun stuff planned for the season at ET as well. So keep tabs, keep checking in. Follow us both on Twitter. I'm right now just delaying until I can click the end screen. Oh, and I had one more thing to say. Yeah, if you see me in the remaining drafters contest, because I will be in there, I will be auto drafting. So you don't need to DM me and tell me that I'm an idiot for stacking both of my quarterbacks with the same bye week. I know. Okay, enjoy yourselves later.
Let them know.